The mother of humanism stands above you, a precious and complex wax painting on a single pane of...
Welcome to Revachol! Yeah! Harder, car!
Yes, what is it?
That's easy.
Yes, what is it?
That's easy.
Yes, what is it?
That's easy. And...
Yes, what is it?
That's easy.
Yes, what is it?
Close your eyes. Unfold your mental map of Martinez. It's morning. You're standing on the plaza before the whirling in rags. The wind pushes a piece of tear across the cracked tiles. From the north comes the malicious laughter of two children. Beyond the unkempt backyard rises a monstrous assemblage of concrete, plaster, and corrugated sheet metal. From behind you, a low, spectral voice whispers, "Nay." Your eye follows the tiles west. You see a bench and a few twisted, pitiful trees. Then, just water. The voice again, more urgent now. Just a moment. That voice isn't human, and it's not saying nay. It's... You turn around. The morning sun is blinding. You bring your hand to your brow, and a great shadow materializes before you. A towering beast.
The dead king and his horse. It could work.
It may work, you think, but why do you feel like there may be a terrible cost?
We'll need an adequate power supply and a great quantity of cable. If we connect the cables to some of the stranded lorries, we could theoretically increase the antenna's wavelength exponentially. It's completely ridiculous, but I believe we could transform the entire roundabout into one solid fractal antenna.
A note of awe in her voice. She's shocked and pleased by her own audacity.
Yes, very likely the largest private antenna in Revachol. I have plenty of cables and amplifiers on hand. The power supply I will secure on my own. All we require now is the radio transceiver itself. I cannot answer that for you, but I don't expect it to be that difficult. If you have real to spare, you might even be able to buy one. But it doesn't really matter where it comes from. So
And before you ask, no, you can't have the radio from my kinema.
Absolutely not. My reign prefect is my livelihood. If something were to go wrong, it could certainly, though it requires a fair amount of technical finesse to remove them. Frankly, it's not worth the bother. Just find a regular radio. That sounds like a perfectly adequate radio. In the meantime, I will gather the rest of the materials. We will...
An old door, worn by elements, guards the depot. The wind has blown a sand dune in front of it. The door hasn't been opened in a long while.
From here to the whirling, I can't see how. The church is in the way.
Is there something here that would indicate a sniper used this place as a nest for taking the shot? Just some urban detritus. In the distance, you can hear the breakers roar.
I don't see it, Lieutenant W. Freitor. I don't see a person take a shot here and hit something there, in the whirling in rags. To warm his hands before pulling the trigger? Perhaps, but anyone could have made this. The coast is specked with fires this time of year. Truthfully, this seems like a very poor choice to take a 1.2 kilometer rifle shot from. Visibility is awful. There's water vapor everywhere. I think we can rule out Biddable Prime, was it? It's not possible to climb that ladder, and even if it were, why? There's no platform up there to aim from. Those? A smoking assailant who favors Tumutiri to Astra or Joanne?
Still, you felt it was important enough to make a mental note. That means something. There, 1.2 kilometers over the cold water of the bay, through a thick snowstorm melting flake by flake in the waves, you see the smallest rectangle, barely visible. A glowing light on the third floor of the whirling in rags. With binoculars, you would see a young woman's shape move behind the glass, her limbs long and slender. A colorful...
Again, I'm obliged to inform you that both alcohol and cigarettes damage your health.
A small cabinet on the wall is filled with various medicine bottles, nasal sprays.
Okay, here. Here. I hope Saint Baptiste makes you feel better or something. Okay, here. Here. I hope Saint Baptiste makes you feel better or something. Okay, here. I hope Saint Baptiste makes you feel better or something.
The payphone hangs. A common office radio, like any of those found in countless waiting rooms, lounges, and other semi-public spaces all over the world.
There's usually a little switch somewhere. Ah yes, it's the one that says release.
The lock disengages with a nice click. You may now safely remove that. There's nothing obviously remarkable about it. It's about the size of a common pasta box, with knobs of molded plastic. If this transceiver were a person, it would be an accountant at a large logistics firm. Perfectly competent, but unexceptional.
Very good. Let's get going, then.
The transceiver appears glad to be of service.
You've surprised me more than once during the course of our investigation, but I have to say, it still seems like a remote scenario.
With its transceiver gone, the radio has ceased its persistent buzzing. The face of King Freecell smiles at you. For some reason, the smile now strikes. You hold in your hand the colorful primer. The title reads, A Primer for Small Kids. This book will show you the score, get you oriented with those basic concepts you appear to be hazy on. The anthropomorphic bear will give you the lowdown of your life. The alphabet. Every page has one word designating one letter of the alphabet with a faded illustration. Most of them are scientific and cultural principles. It goes as follows. A is for azimuth. B is for Boreas. C is for cosine. D is for diamite. E is for ellipse. F is for phlogiston. G is for gamete. H is for homeboy. I is for econ. J is for Eura. K is for collapse. L is for laudanum. M is for myriad. N is for nadir. O is for aureole. P is for perihelion. Q is for quasar. R is for rhododendron. S is for sinus. T is for tricolor. U is for ultra. V is for vector. W is for Wahrheit. X is for xylophone. Y is for Ustava. Z is for zenith. That's it. You know the alphabet now.
Good. I also know the alphabet.
The ham sandwich looks fresh and nutritious in your hand, begging to be eaten. A treat of this magnitude should not be enjoyed alone.
I'll pass. Thanks.
When you hold something up long enough, some people are compelled to take it. Try it on the lieutenant.
I mean, I'm not hungry, and therefore I'm not gonna take it. Thanks, though. But you go right ahead.
Six crumbling petals rest. A police badge on which you see the photo of the bullet is still safely sealed. The edges of the pages are worn and smudged. A lot of people have read about the Devil Woman's altercations with the Heimdall. The jacket copy proclaims, "Man from Heimdall returns in his most exciting adventure yet. After crashing into a strange jungle, cannibalistic natives abduct his only surviving comrade, Noble Tyribald. Before Man from Heimdall can mount a rescue, he is ambushed by a tribe of female warriors and taken to the ancient citadel of Cloud City, where a mysterious and wicked queen rules supreme. Will Man from Heimdall be able to escape his dire situation and find his missing friend? You open the book to a random page. Man from Heimdall, wielding his two Zweihanders, is carving through a sea of savages, his visage fixed in grim determination. His arms, whirling like windmills, are soaked with the blood of his enemies. Mangled corpses litter the battlefield. It calls out to you. This is the spirit of Revachol. Berserker rage burns in his azure-hued eyes as he brings glory and honor to his long-lost Heimdalla tribe. From the village of Heimdall, the ivory giant roars like an ice bear, and the winds of Gatla howl out his name. Man from Heimdall rides on a gilded griffin, his golden mane billowing in the breeze. Both Zweihanders sheathed on his back. He is off to war. Will he conquer his enemies? Will he conquer himself? The steel muscles of Man from Heimdall gleam in the humid jungle air. Yet the man does not sweat. In meditation, his soul drifts in the frigid northlands he calls home. A passage reads, "The man from Heimdall looks up, his eyes blue as the mountain lakes of his homeland. He rarely speaks, but now his voice booms in the darkened throne room. Do not try to sap my masculine essence, wicked temptress. Son of Yelmdal will never succumb to your Thine spells are no match for purity and strength of will. Brothers of Yelmdal, stand above the vices of flesh, for it is weak and corruptible, yet mine is forged in gore and strife. Queen Lydiana just laughs, a sultry and salacious sound, then says, I have grand plans for you, man from Heimdall. She gestures her diabolical hand toward an array of potions and unguents. First, you shall please me. Then lead my armies against the vicious cannibals. Not a muscle moves in the face of the man from Heimdall. Yet inside, there is turmoil. This goes against all he holds sacrosanct. In the final pages, man from Heimdall mounts Gallavarin, his mighty griffin, and turns his gaze to the horizon. Queen Lydiana is dead, but an army of cannibals is storming the gates, and still there's no word of trusty Tyribald. To find out what happens next, you'll have to pick up Man from Heimdall and the Three-Eyed Skull, available in fine bookstores everywhere. Spring 39.
Hello again, esteemed officer, and welcome to Crime, Romance, and Biography. God, I've told her not to do that. It's such a...
Part of hers too, clearly.
She can, if she has enough willpower. This is what's called growing.
Come on, ma'am. It's obvious she can't do anything about it. You are placing an unnecessary burden on a young child.
She stands stiff and severe, silently fuming. Tenos, this is a person coming to terms with a new reality. One where they are, she's looking for one, but there simply aren't any good arguments for being an asshole.
Oh no. Hold on. I need to invite her inside and apologize. She must be freezing out there. There. I don't know what to say to you. My husband, he tries to teach me business lessons. I have what my mother called a dull mind. All this stress.
It sounds like both the husband and the mother treat her the way she treats Annette.
Oh, well, my mother was horrible, of course. Absolutely perverse energies around that person. But my husband...
My husband is completely different, of course.
Yes, my husband is a successful entrepreneur east of the river. If only he were more involved in the business we're running up here. No matter. Soon we'll both be off for Grand Couronne. It's a proper place to live. One of the most peaceful neighbourhoods east of Jamrock. Most of the buildings are empty at the moment. It's a great opportunity to get ahead of the crowds. Better times ahead for sure. He made the initial investment. Since then, he's been what you might call...
Super silent, almost inaudibly so.
Yes, I'm afraid so. A real treat she is. It would be nice if she had... No, we couldn't have afforded more children, really.
A glimmer of sadness blinks through the well-crafted exterior.
We're quite busy people, you know, my husband and I. Quite busy. Children are a lot of work. You don't look like a father, so I don't expect you to understand. I'm sorry, I'm sure you do understand. She's been too busy helping me here, so she studied at home this trimester. This is a temporary solution, of course. I assure you, I of all people understand the importance of education. She will be back in school the moment the store takes off.
And hell freezes over? Never mind. It's not a good topic to get into. The woman looks aloof. Her features much. The display rack is brimming with worn paperbacks featuring an extremely muscular
I'm sorry, sir. I can't talk right now. I'm very busy with my homework. I have so much homework now.
You just can't win. Out of the rain and into the gutter.
Math. It's really difficult. Like, really. They say you need it to get rich. Better than standing outside in the... Oh, I found something while you were away. I thought this would fit you. Like, thanks for helping out. Not me. The city, I mean. Like a detective does. Just what Dick Mullen would ask. I got it from behind the curtains. I'm not really supposed to go there. Maybe. It's the hat Dick Mullen wears all the time. He'll look way more serious with that. Right, I have to get back to my homework now, before Mum notices. Man, this is hard.
In your hand, you hold Dick Mullen and the mistaken identity. The brittle paperback feels fragile to the touch. The cover features a pastiche of different scenes. In the foreground, a man in a dark overcoat clutches a pistol to his chest. Rising up behind him, the tagline reads, "Detective Dick Mullen must prove his innocence after an old friend is murdered by someone who looks just like Dick Mullen." That seems to sum up the premise nicely.
Are you really reading that, detective? Good luck finding it. He's not much of a character, I think you'll find. Just a stand-in for the reader.
The point is for the reader to feel like they're solving the crime, along with Dick Mullen. A crude narrative convention, but no less effective for it. The story opens with a knock at the door. Detective Dick Mullen is greeted by an old friend, Charlie Spillane, who's come to Mullen to ask a favor on this dark and cold night. Spillane needs Mullen to drive him in from Vespa to a small town along the Elysium coast. Despite his friend's apparent agitation, Mullen does as he's asked, then returns home where he passes out drunk, as he does most nights. 2 days later, Mullen is arrested by the Vespa police and charged with the murder of Charlie Spillane. At his interrogation, Mullen learns that Charlie Spillane was shot in a bar in the very town Mullen dropped him off in by a man matching Mullen's description. Desperate to clear his name, Mullen manages to convince the Vespa police to release him for 3 days so that Mullen may solve his friend's murder and prove his innocence.
What's the matter, detective?
The lieutenant shrugs, resigned to the idea that his profession will rarely, if ever, be accurately represented in art and literature. Of course, Mullen didn't do it. That's the whole premise of the book. Anyway, Mullen returns to the seaside bar where Spillane was murdered and meets a beautiful, mysterious woman named Diana Deneuve. And not just any dame. She's truly one in a million, a knockout whose mind is as dangerous as her curves. But she's got a secret. She's any man's kind of woman, according to this book. Are you sure about that? Something about her gives you a bad feeling. What kind of secret is she hiding? You couldn't handle a woman like that. Look at yourself. You couldn't even handle your... Stop. Don't say it. Nothing. Forget it. Go back to your story. Deneuve reveals that she was Spillane's lover and that he was mixed up with a local amphetamine smuggling operation. As soon as Mullen begins pulling at strings, the whole conspiracy begins to unravel. Not only is the local police captain in on the amphetamine ring, so is the son of a powerful politician and a strung-out art collector named Torvald, each of whom has his own reasons for wanting Spillane dead. Outwardly, the old police captain is a real law and order crypto-fascist, a barrel-chested man who's beaten his share of suspects to pulp. But he's also dirty and increasingly paranoid that someone's going to expose his role in the drug ring. He would certainly have the motive and the means, but the captain walks with a noticeable limp from an old war injury. Is it possible that he was able to conceal it long enough to commit the murder? A typical privileged twat. In all likelihood, he's just in over his head. He does bear a personal grudge against Spillane, though, a former prosecutor who nearly brought down his father's administration. The kid doesn't exactly have Dick Mullen's manly build, but he is the correct height, and while interrogating him at his home, Mullen did notice a certain overcoat that looks suspiciously like his own. Torvald, the art collector, is a strung-out mess. Frankly, it's hard to imagine him holding a pistol steady enough to actually hit someone, let alone plug them 3 times in the chest the way Spillane got did. That said, Torvald and Spillane have a long history, and while interrogating him, Mullen discovers that Torvald was once involved with Diana Deneuve, Could it be that this is all over a sordid love triangle? One evening, Deanna Deneuve comes to Malin's hostel room in tears. The two of them drink half a bottle of vodka, and soon they're seeking comfort in each other. Yes, comfort and pleasure. The warmth of another human's touch. The burning taste of liquor on her full, sweet lips. As the two lovers share a post-coital cigarette, Deanna Deneuve turns to Malin and says, "By the way, Dick, there was something else I meant to tell you. I love you." The name of the true killer. Always aim for the center of mass. Whatever it is, Malin never hears the words. A blow to the base of his skull knocks him out cold instantly. When Malin comes to, Deneuve is dead on the hostel bed next to him. To make matters worse, his clothes are covered with her blood. Malin trashes his blood-stained clothes and flees the hostel, knowing it's only a matter of hours before the cops discover Deneuve's body. If the heat is on, if Dick Mullen can't solve both murders before the cops catch up to him, he's going away for life. Can you solve the case before the cops close in? What is it, detective? It's a dangerous line of work, but somebody has to do it. That's why Dick Mullen never lets anyone get too close. What's the matter? Afraid you've been hacking up your friends' bodies in the night? Have you gone over everyone? Is anybody missing? There was never a time when he wasn't a detective. He was born a detective. Dick Mullen was made to crack skulls and solve cases. It's who he is. He could no more stop being a detective than a tiger could cease to be a predator in the night. You're no tiger though, Harry. You're a man. It's your curse to have to choose. For a moment, you cease to read the story on the page and see the book for what it is. A collection of brittle, cheaply printed pages held together by glue made from the hooves of horses. You won't find the answers you're looking for here, in other words. Is it really so evil, detective? Then why are you still here? Just make sure you don't lose him. You'll not find another like him. But then, what does this book know? It's just a poorly made piece of pulp garbage made to be consumed and discarded. So, who did it, detective? Who killed Charlie Spillane and Deanna Deneuve? Have you been paying attention at all? It wasn't Mullen. It was an imposter. Now go on, find out who really did it. You begin furiously flipping through pages. Even as you know these books follow a series of well-worn tropes, you find yourself completely engrossed. You're turning pages so fast, you don't even notice the ancient spine coming unglued. You try to grab the pages as they come loose, but your fingers aren't quick enough. They're gone. Dozens of pages scatter across the floor. The last fifth or so of the book seems to have been lost. It's possible that you could gather and reassemble the pages, but it would take way too long.
Ah, yes. The problem with mass-market paperbacks. They are not made to last. Perhaps this is a sign that you should get back to solving your own murder, huh, detective?
In your hand, you hold 4/5 of Dick Mullen and the mistaken identity. Jamais vu. Derealization. Jamais vu. The opposite of déjà vu. Not already seen, but never seen. Everything that should be familiar appears strange and new, like some half-forgotten day in your childhood. Only now. That's the feeling you've been having. And for who knows how long. You should go and ask Joyce Messier about this. What world are we in? This is a fundamental question. It's the ledger you found in the trash. A cabbage of papers. It takes about half an hour to piece one together. It would be very interesting to read about these, wouldn't it? I mean, there seems to be a square-shaped entry wound in the victim's forehead. She's been sitting there for weeks, on her rocking chair, with that's all you got. From the half hour you spent piecing it together, all you know is the entry wound was square-shaped. You never found the bullet. And then another body showed up, also with a square hole in his forehead. Who knows? Those pages are missing. What next? Don't worry. One day you may still catch the man with the square gun. Some assholes brought their couch outside and hung out on it. In the middle of the street, on the roof, on the hillside by the motorway. You know, at an unexpected location. They were young, and they thought they looked cool on it. Yes, as you've said here, insufferable rock and roll assholes. Young people are the worst. So anyway, you got a complaint about the damn sofa, or couch, or whatever it was. They were leaving it out in all these unexpected and whimsical locations. They took it to where they also took photos of themselves on it. And smoked cigarette butts, coffee cups, stupid couch. You had to clean it all up. And you did. So congratulations to you. Case solved. No, you didn't have time for that. These notes show that you have what is called a real goddamn job. You don't have time to be chasing down the couch assholes. You have a real job to do. Murder. Tum-tum-tum at the hookah parlor was a case originally assigned to an officer called Joseph Mills, who is now dead. Of circumstances completely beaten to death by a throng of Villalobos gang members when him and his partner J.M., only initials mentioned, answered a call one night. It's a sad story, and it isn't really represented in your case files. Stop stalling and get to the murder at the hookah parlor. Joseph Mills was on this case that he just couldn't solve, was doing it solo, said it was a real nutcracker, a real brain twister, was on it for, like, a month. Mills didn't get off the pot, not yet. He kept at it for a couple of weeks more, racking his brains, running with every theory as outlandish as they seemed. Still couldn't solve the murder at the hookah parlor. Tough case, he said. Toughest he's ever had. No, he was awful. Awful sense of humor, too. The worst jokes you've ever heard. Really rapey. Still, he'd been on it for months now. Said it was the final case. Said it was uncrackable. That murderer vanished into thin air. That goddamn hookah parlor was all he talked about. Okay, so the case is handed to you because Mills isn't getting anywhere, and you look into it. Here's the setup. A young man is found dead in a hookah parlor. You know, those places where you go and smoke bubblegum-flavored vapor all day. No, it's soot and water vapor. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, so anyway, young man in his 20s found with his skull busted open. Right on the floor of the hookah parlor, in the middle of the day. No one else is in there. Only client that day. In perfect health, too. Some kind of movie producer. No one enters. No one exits. He's just sucking on his watermelon hookah all morning, all noon, like he usually does. He's a regular. No calls, nothing. Just sucking on the hookah until 15:45. Then bam, he's dead on the floor with his skull busted open. Blood everywhere. What happened? Mills has no idea. Invisible assassin. Movie deal gone sour. Girl at the counter did it. Nothing fits. Eerie. Man just dropped dead. So you go to the parlor. You see cushions around the table. Table's low, heavy, really sharp edge. See? You can't even read the thing without solving it. Yeah, it was that. Turns out hookah does do something. It turns off your brain's oxygen supply, and you don't notice it until you get up to go to the bathroom. Yeah, he liked his hookah. Stephen was his name. Smoking hookah. Didn't you hear? I don't know. Trying to come up with a movie script, maybe. Anyway, that was Murder at the Hookah Parlor. Joseph Mills wasn't a good detective, and about 30 minutes has passed piecing it together. Next. Not much has changed in the meanwhile. A bunch of sodden papers still sags. It's made of dark blue plastic, hard enough to beat someone to submission. With your hands, you four-sized pages hang without resistance or sound. The two panels move against each other. You stare at the card, willing your hand to move. It refuses. Two octopuses are smiling, reaching their tentacles toward each other. It's slightly, ever so slightly, difficult to breathe once you've done so. The drawer is locked. Blue ink drips from the white pages in your hand. Your hand shakes. You're flushed with adrenaline. Medicinal purposes of the pill. The cover of this heavy tome features a number of esoteric. Flipping through the book, you find a number of sections on the general benefits of the pill. A large pharmacopoeia makes up nearly half of the book. You come across the following explanation. While modern pharmacopoeia are continually updated by so-called experts, based on the results of clinical trials. Readers will find assembled here the timeless wisdom relied upon by generations of traditional Seolite medicine practitioners, Mesk mystics, and Ilmaran folk doctors. It's all quackery, in other words. Finally, something to calm the angry spirits that have been plaguing you. It seems to contain descriptions of the medicinal properties of various ingredients that may be gathered from the pale, as well as instructions for producing a variety of herbal remedies. There are a number of Seolite tonics that promise to improve your short-term memory, but nothing that speaks to your condition. There's nothing in here that speaks to hangovers directly. However, while browsing through the various descriptions, you become convinced that you could assemble something from the ingredients listed here. Want to give it a shot? First, you need to choose a base ingredient. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? The combination of mint and birch bark make this tea relaxing and good for the digestion. It won't do much for your hangover though. Would you like to try again? Very well. First, choose a... Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient. Lastly, is there anything else? You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. According to the pharmacopoeia, it should increase your energy and focus, though, in your experience, it's only done the opposite. Would you like to try again? Very well. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. According to the pharmacopoeia, it should increase your energy and focus, though, in your experience, it's only done the opposite. Would you like to try again? Very well. First, choose a base. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture. Would you like to try again? Very well. First, choose a base ingredient. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture. Would you like to try again? You close the book and find yourself staring at the familiar cover once more. Very well. First, choose a base ingredient. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, you've created a delicious tincture of whisk. Would you like to try again? Very well. First, choose a base ingredient. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture of. Would you like to try again? You close the book and The Greatest Innocence by João Paulo Salomão Lopes de Fuego. The book is large and heavy. Browsing through the various chapters, you try your best to understand the ceaseless overflow, the sprawl of names, dates, places, events historical. Most of it ends up as a twisted mass of facts inside your brain. You can do it. It'll be worth it. There's something here. Your educational survey is done. Did you catch any of that? No. Oh well, it's pop quiz time. Let's see what you've learned. This might take a few minutes. You ready? That's the spirit. Here we go. Question 1. Who was the first innocence? Oh yeah, this is what I was made for. A pop quiz is a short examination designed to test your knowledge with thanks for nothing. Dolores Day. Dolores. Incorrect. Sola was anointed during the previous century and even lived to see the current one. She was an urban planner who spoke her mind and largely left history to its own devices, encouraging people to excel on their own rather than prescribing to a deified model of history. She is often called an anti-innocence. Sola resigned after an assassination attempt by a Yugo nationalist who blamed her for not taking the side of the left during the turn-of-the-century revolutions. Innocences don't usually resign. Care to try again? Incorrect. Dolores Day was the innocence of humanism, internationalism, and the welfare state. She codified parliamentary democracy and created modern institutions. Among these, the moral intern, she was powerful and beautiful on all her icons. Her colors are silver, white, and apricot. And when you think her name, Dolores, stomach acid rises to the back of your throat, and it hurts. You see a flash silver, a wreath, an airport bag, and blonde hair. You don't know why. Another choice, perhaps? Steer clear of this one. There's something terrible about this one. A strange sensation of loss. When she left the earth, the dust, and the ice, and the humans. That is unimportant to the quiz. Stop thinking about this. Yes, the quiz is impersonal. No need to rouse sensations in yourself at the mention of Dolores Day. Who was the first innocence? It wasn't Dolores Day. Correct. Nothing much is known about him. It's not even clear that he was a he, but Franco Negro presumed as such and called him Pius. He's depicted as a young man with molten gold pouring out of his mouth. All he spoke was gold. It's said he invented God and equality of men before God. He also introduced the gold standard as a way for measuring people's love for Aurum. As the first innocence, he declared that there should be more of those like him. It is presumed his disciples were the beginning of the Holy Party, the founding party. Question 2. Who was the strongest innocence? Easy. Everybody knows the answer to this. You, me, anybody. Incorrect again. While she originated many modern institutions, launched several successful expeditions, and was even critical of the Innocentic system itself, and somehow keeps popping up in your mind, she is not often considered the strongest. Even though the words most associated with her rule are l'amour, la compassion, la autodiscipline, love, compassion, self-control, which could be seen as facets of strength. Would you like to try again? Please, relax. Correct. Named the innocence of militarism, he codified hereditary rule, but at the same time ended serfdom and established the inter-isolari real as the global reserve currency. He also established the concept of the nation. Franco Negro attempted to solve the rising tensions between the aristocracy and bourgeoisie by building a unified society in which every man has a place and a mission, but at the same time may rise to nobility provided on the strength of his virtue. Question 3. Who was the false innocence? Got it under control. No problem. Solid on this one. It's widespread historical information. Yes, there exists a group called the Founding Party, known as the Holy Party, during the time of the Pericarnacium. This, the world's oldest international organization, spends its time in search of either the re-emergence of the innocents or new members. There seems to be a mix-up with the sources. It's not my fault. At least it clearly wasn't Dolores Day. She wouldn't be false. She's beautiful. No, stop thinking it. I said it wasn't her. She was true. Incorrect. Stepan the Despicable, regent of Kedra, was a ruler who conquered the known world during the Kedriatic conquest, instead of the despotic Erno Pasternak. Would you try again? Incorrect. Kedra is a large nation in the mid-northern area of the Mawindi Isola, north of the Occident, between the Ilmarin mountain range and the Pacentic Mare Interregnum. Care to try again? Correct. There have been a number of counter or false innocences, some assumed to have innocentic qualities, some who just thought so themselves. Occasionally, they have the support of a faction inside the ecclesiastic organization, and accusations of foul play have arisen. The most famous and important of these was Erno Pasternak. He was into torture, despotism, hymns, cannons, and world conquest, but got defeated and humiliated by Stepan the Despicable of Kedra. Final stretch. You've come so far and learned so much. This is the most important one. Question 4. Who was the greatest innocence? The most important of them all. The most precious to humankind. I've got it, honest. Correct. The Mesk might see Franco Negro as the father of nations, but as of this century, there's been a great shift in attitude. Dolores Day has become widely regarded as the greatest innocence, a most radical change to the whole fabric of the world. Everything from inter-isolary travel to the connected world to 3 consecutive scientific revolutions can be traced back to her. Every decade that passes, she seems less human somehow, and more beautiful. Congratulations on finishing the test. The results and your subsequent grade have been calculated. You get an F for failure. Ha ha ha. You would have done better if you just left Dolores Day for the end. Dial the Dolores Day down a bit.
What's going on with you? Okay.
You are shouting at an inanimate object, like a real weirdo. No wonder you seem to have trouble with the right answers. Browsing through the book, you can do it. It'll be worth it. Your educational survey is done. Did you catch any of that? No. Oh well, it's pop quiz time. Let's see what you've learned. This might take a few minutes. You ready? It seems rather unfair to try again after you already... Oh yeah, this is what I was made for. Correct. As the first innocence, he declared that there should be question 2. Easy. Everybody knows the answer to this. Correct. Named the innocent. Franco. Question 3. Got it under control. No problem. Solid on this one. Correct. The most famous. Final stretch. I've got it. Honest. Correct. The Mesk might see everything from Inter Isolari. Congratulations on finishing the test. Again. The results, an A. All correct. Impressive. Oddly so. You really navigated some treacherous waters here. Well done. The lieutenant is doing his best to ignore your behavior. Yeah, sure. It's so much easier once you know the answers, right? The Greatest Innocence by João Paulo Salomão Lopes de Fuego. The book is large and heavy.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
What is all of this? The scent, the sound, the air.
What world? The only one, I suppose. The world of matter. And its pale antipode.
The camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
Great bodies of water, forest-covered surfaces, clusters of light where the cities lie. You've seen the montage. We all have. This world is enough. There is a term of endearment they coined for it in the DeLorean century, when humanity was high on this world, discovering more and more of it, these archipelagos included. Elysium. It does. There are those who would call it hell. A term of hatred that originates, like many such things, with the Mesk petro-fascists. Oh, you want a picture of the world? There is no complete set yet, dear. They're having some trouble reaching orbit. Great things are difficult to achieve. For now, we're viewing the world from the inside, sideways. We used to think it was a sphere, but that is beginning to look less and less likely by the day. You wouldn't know it from the tabloids. But the ORG nations have been launching weather balloons into the lower ionosphere since the 30s.
ORG, Occident Revachol Grad.
There's a steadily increasing trickle of images. Between the big three scientific contributors, they're piecing together a dark grey corona. Yes. Pale covers 72% of the surface. There are grey flares and prominences, even arcs above entire isolas. The images are blurry, but if there was a sphere in there, it certainly looks like it fractured a long time ago.
A cold fear seeps into you.
They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of land disrupted by nothingness. I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the acute encephalopathy. Even scientific positivism isn't entirely convinced about what we're dealing with here. But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our rut, bring us together, however naive it may sound. You have misimagined it. I don't have the power to convey to you the effect and geometry of the images that depict our world from below low orbit. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very disco. You'd love it. See? Everyone finds something worth holding on to in this world, however wasted its opportunities.
The cold seeps into you. The air is heavy with 80% humidity. Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there, on whatever this all is. Your arms hang down by your sides. The lieutenant observes you both, silently. He adjusts his glasses.
The Pale is not, technically speaking, part of reality.
Yes. Also, I think we've had enough excitement for today. We do have a case to attend to.
Of course, Lieutenant. Let's try something else.
Ma'am, remember you are dealing with a very sensitive and impressionable police officer who is still recovering from a recent medical episode.
The Lieutenant's right. Let's change topics. What do you want to know? Anything.
You could sneak back later when the lieutenant is not here, unless you can convince him to step aside. Good idea. Just ask him. He won't make a scene.
Fine.
See? What can he do? You're a grown man.
Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant. Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass. Isla is a Messinian word for a continent of matter, enveloped on all sides by the Pale. Also, isolation, or landmass. We used to believe there was only one. In the last 4 centuries, we have discovered 7. Mundi, Seol, Samara, Ilmara, Grad, Katla, and this, Insulinde. An oceanic isla. It comprises mostly of water. Muindi is the largest, Katla the coldest, Insulinde the bluest. What can I say? Each is perishing and dear. Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness.
The negation of being.
That's right. The negation of being. No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
Yes. That is enough. Many cities are built much closer. An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. A great vision. The area of transition between the world and the pale is called porch collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist. Cold vapor marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism. A mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see.
You hear your pulse rise. The air feels caustic and cold suddenly.
It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension. Right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working. No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible. Oh, it is so difficult for us.
A squall of birds. Hardware operating in the harbor. Firm. Self-evident.
It is possible to force dimensions on the pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged. Extensively. Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter. They call it the blend over of the self. The pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past.
Who says and who argues?
The logical positivists say, the dialectical materialists argue. It feels terrible. Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travelers to 6 days of pale exposure per year.
It's more for her. Way more.
No, Lieutenant Dubois. I'm entreprenetic business class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of pale transit annually.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories. Someone else you've met may have been exposed as well. The strange grey-haired woman in her lorry.
Yes, carried in the hulls of airships. It's a horrific job. Automation will abolish it soon.
You should ask the PAL driver about this. See what she says. That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't imagine.
Up to my gills, officer.
An acidic smile on her lips. It's getting worse every year.
Entreponetics is the scientific study of the Pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of Grad. The study of the Pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain.
They had not traveled the entire circumference of the Pericarnassian Super E-Solar. It was not merely in the west, it was everywhere, even then, surrounding them.
There are signs of pre-modern crossings. Successful navigation of the Pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years. Nothing. We remain powerless before the Pale. The only real advance in Pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later. Hybrid airships, Detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near Pale to far Pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end, if we throw them precisely. Then they don't.
Gone, like a skipping stone beneath the surface.
The Pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more Pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping. What do you think, Detective? Precisely. One of the few measurable effects of the Pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the Pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists. Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge. I suggest you do the same.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
One and all. They say Pale is death, but for the universe.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do, tell me, Detective, is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Then tell me, what do you think of the Pale?
Your ailing constitution, sweaty forehead, the beads there, and your heavy breathing.
You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then... I hope so. I truly do. If I may suggest, hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile...
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
You have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
Good. You have not passed out from it. Perhaps I worried for nothing. Are we still on the reality lowdown, or should we do actual police work now? Yes, well, the rest of us have dealt with it for thousands of years, so...
You will have to deal with it, too, the lieutenant thinks. This is why I didn't want you to know.
Good luck, detectives.
Yes, what is it? The swallow, you mean? What about it? Great, thanks. Ah, very good. Let's see what you have. Not the most advanced model, but at least everything appears to be in order. Yes, this should serve our purposes. I believe that means we're ready to get started. I should warn you, once we begin setting up this antenna, we'll need to see the whole process through. There won't be any second chances, any do-overs. You understand? So if there's anything you'd like to get in order before we depart, I suggest you do it now. Ah, yes. I wasn't sure what to do about that, but then I discovered an abandoned power source down by the edge of the bay.
It's obvious. She's referring to your half-sunken Caprice 40.
Oh, yes. I did notice that it was covered in police livery. Then you already know that the carriage itself is irreparable, but the rear-mounted engine seems to be in fine working order. My intention is to run a power cable from the engine up to the antenna. It won't last forever, but it should give us enough time to establish a connection with Coalition warship Archer. That's up to you. At a minimum, I would make sure you are physically and mentally prepared for an intense and difficult process. Once we begin, there can be no interruptions.
At the very least, you should make sure you're wearing a good pair of gloves.
Radio engineers typically carry overpriced solvent sprays to clean the antenna connections. But in a pinch, some common ammonia works just fine. Finally, there's the question of stimulants. Some people prefer to keep legal amphetamines on hand to help with their work. I'm not one of them, but they do exist. It is possible that technical fields attract a certain kind of personality. I haven't given it much thought. That's fine. Return to me when you're ready to go.
A metal payphone under a yellow plastic dome. Life is garbage. It didn't give you any fun for that money.
Officer, that's enough. Let's return to work.
That's right. Walk away. It's over. A metal payphone under a yellow plastic dome. There's a bitter life is garbage.
Tequila sunset. Can't really remember seeing any women after losing my keys.
It's a touchy topic. He hasn't got laid in ages. He really has no idea who this Ruby is, sire.
My jacket?
A look of consternation crosses the man's face. He looks at you, then at his bottle.
What the fuck are you talking about, Tequila? Phalm? That's medium concept stuff, not my style at all. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe you should lay off the booze. It's fucking with your head.
It becomes abundantly clear to you how this man managed to lose his keys, business, friends, and girlfriend. I'm calling it. It's neurological.
That shit is so medium concept, I wouldn't touch it with a stick. But yeah, okay. I'm sure it looks great on you.
It's an okay jacket, if you are into that look.
What's in a name?
Hey, Spiral Boy, you gonna share that?
Shut up, guys. I'm telling a story here. Something happened to you. Something happened to me, too. My actual name is George, but around here, you already know. I was once a reasonably high net worth individual, a founder/junior partner at a high concept creative services agency. I used the profits from my agency to finance what I called a cultural incubator. Abstract value generation. I developed the paradigm, worked within the paradigm. 22 full-time employees, an all-star team, a potentially historical set of individuals. Worrying about it helped, truly. With my trusty Sansaric Lycra tracksuit, I felt like I could conquer the world. But now dreams are worn thin. One day I left on my evening run. As you may know, it's impossible to clear your head when you're distracted by the sound of keys jangling in your pockets.
His eyes are clouded. His dilated blood vessels encircling his eyes are your eyes.
So I removed the key ring and put the keys for the front gate and the apartment into different pockets to stop the jangling, you see? At least, that was the plan. I was halfway done with my usual lap when it started to rain. The reality situation became very wet. I made my way back home and discovered that I didn't have the key to the front gate. I'd mixed it up with the key to the letterbox, which naturally the situation required me to climb over the gate, which I did. There was no climbing down because I slipped and landed on my ass. Ouch indeed. Reality was looking rather grim just then. Me lying on my ass in a mud pit in the middle of a heavy shower. But when life knocked me down, so I made my way across the yard. Standing in front of my apartment door, fumbling with my pockets, I realized that I'd also forgotten my apartment key. I wish I were, Tequila. I wish I were. Instead of my apartment key, I'd taken the key to the office. I rang my neighbor's buzzers. It was late, and most of them didn't even answer. Those who did assumed I was trying to sell them something and hung up before I... People are naturally wary of ad men, you see. One moment someone chats you up, 5 minutes later you've bought a box of edible lingerie and a strap-on. I don't begrudge them, especially...
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Just then, I experienced a moment of clarity. I still had the key to my office, but when I reached my office, I remembered that I'd asked one of my producers to change the locks that day. And since I hired only the best, he'd already done it, and I couldn't get in. Anyway, long story short, life spiraled out of control. I haven't gotten into my apartment for years, and my girlfriend left me because she didn't want to date a homeless man. The company, well, you see where I'm going with this.
He pinches his thigh as if to check whether this reality is.
So, now you've heard my tragic tale. What do you think? Like nothing you've ever heard, huh? This would explain a lot. I always believed it wasn't my fault that I ended up homeless on the beach with these two bums. God bless them, though. I'd be alone without them. Anyway, that was all the story one bottle gets you.
Okay, let's step aside for a second. I've been meaning to have a little chat with you about your sense of style. It's, well, a little eclectic, don't you think? How would you even describe what you're wearing?
Eclectic is for pop music with indigenous percussion. You're a sartorial maverick.
Well, I can't say it doesn't fit you. Still, you might try branching out a little. You know the expression, the clothes make the man. The right outfit in the right situation can make all the difference in the world. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, detective.
A warm smile.
Anyway, we should probably get back to the case. Let's go.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and...
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you? Just a moment.
10-4, come in, officer. Over. 10-4, sir, glad to hear that. I'll write down that there is no need to issue a new one to you then. Over. Roger that, 10-10, over and out.
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and the soft glow of the...
This is Precinct 50. Does it... Sylvie? Yes. Hello? Oh, great. What else do you need, detective?
You hear the...
Anything else I can help you with, officer? 57.
In the cabin, you see a set. As you tap on the gauge, the indicator pin jerks as if startled. It's in...
No, that's enough fun with the foldable headlights. I know they are mesmerizing. They are also fragile. I'm not going to turn it on for you again.
Yes, what is it?
You don't have to. You already have. A long time ago. These thoughts formed in you somewhere, in a long-forgotten discussion, behind a kitchen table, in the evening light. Drinking coffee and smoking with a friend.
What? But Pale isn't here. We're thousands of kilometers from the edge.
That comforts her. She looks up into the darkness under the nave, then back at you.
Then what is that?
It's nothing. No, it's less than nothing. No.
Then the Pale is... But the gradient, it clearly hasn't started yet. We're here, and the Pale is not. I understand. A theory of the Pale where instead of an outer ocean, it metastasizes, like a cancer or a mold, erupting in points inside the world. According to this, how long... And information, causing data losses in the East Insulindian front. Have you considered why it's formed in a church? And also when or how it might start growing, or if it has other effects in addition to sound and data?
An intellectual hunger fills her now, casting fear aside.
I also have a question, since we are piling them on. How do you know this? I'm not doubting you. I'm simply curious as to how a detective of the RCM...
Of course! A pine wood sarcophagus, or a containment facility of some kind, built by the first settlers. I have considered the same. The bad news is, there were 7 pinewood churches built in the first decade of provincial settlement. Most of them were burnt down during the revolution, or repurposed before, during the suzerain. I'm not saying all of them have one in them, but...
Some of them might. A black grain hanging in the air.
You think the presence of that puncture has somehow influenced the outcome of events here? Even, say, software development?
She already made up her mind when she heard it. Some kind of great and uncaring force had to play a part. It wasn't only them.
I told the producers we need to go and move to a normal office building with amenities. But no, the artists like the milieu, the writers like the history. I told them. You mean Plaisance and the Dice Maker? There was almost no one left when we packed up. Then go tell them.
An amateur anthropomedic police officer. I'd like to say I've heard stranger things, but I'm not sure. This is a hell of a guess, however. Well worded, I might add.
Yes, it is very interesting. But I wouldn't say you know. This is a guess. One that's going to have to be proved by anthroponetic scientists.
She falls silent. The wind blows in through the hole in the stained glass window, cold and moist.
I'm going to leave that out. But the rest, some of this I can use to start to explain this to the rest of the team. Maybe I'll...
Man, you will certainly some man.
One more thing. Maybe a club for anodic music isn't the worst thing you can erect around this particular point in space. I wouldn't go so far as to...
Yeah! Once the light is on in the universe, it will never go out!
Thank you, Egghead. Let's leave it at that, shall we? We have an anthropomedic detection to perform in this district.
The creepy woman! We were wondering about that when we worked there, but I had completely forgotten about it ever since. It must be anthroponetic crosstalk, the one you get in radios and long-distance calls. Now it makes sense, with the pail right on the doorstep.
Incredible. This would also explain why we get it on the police radio all the time.
It's quite common, actually. When the signal gets routed through pail, all kinds of irregularities take place. You may hear snippets of someone else's conversation, or the voice of your former lover, or an echo of an event that took place 100 years ago. Pale is a shroud of memories, and it doesn't really distinguish to whom those memories belong to. You could hear anything. Anytime. Yes, what is it? Very good?
Back across the water lab. At least we are getting our exercise in today.
If you'll please carry that amplifier, officer, and if you'll take that spool of cable, we should be able to move it all in one trip. And now if you'll just connect that here...
It's done. I believe we are ready.
We're ready to try at least. Please put on these headphones. There should be 2 extra sets. I've configured the channels so that only your microphone is set to broadcast, officer. We'll all be able to listen, but anyone we reach will only hear your voice. You will need to transmit your connection request while I attempt to locate the warship's public frequency. You will likely encounter some interference, but it's important to keep transmitting your request until you're acknowledged. Ready? Then it will be exactly like every other moment of every other day. I ask again, are you ready? Good. Beginning transmission.
A soft rustling between your ears, a winterscape with fast falling snow. Every light switch, every motor carriage, every doorbell, tea kettle, and radio in Martinez, all mingled with electrical interference caused by scattered thunderstorms over Ozone.
Officer, are you in order? We're waiting for you to start.
You're all alone out there, wandering a blasted heath, calling out to the night, but there is no reply. The lieutenant looks up at you with a nervous glance. Nervous for who, though? You cannot say.
Try again, officer.
Perhaps you're simply imagining it, but it seems as though you're learning to pull apart the fibers of this auditory felt. You focus on one strand in particular, one that sounds very nearly human.
Nein, Liebling, das lasse ich nicht zu. Wie kannst du unseren Jungen bloß auf einen dieser Dinger nach Bredefort schicken? Marianne hat mir erzählt, dass Oscar nicht mehr seit er auf einem Luftschiff aus Grab zurückgekommen ist. Halten ihn die Psychologen für vollkommen normal. Aber sie hat das Gefühl, seit seiner Rückkehr mit einem Fremden zusammenzuleben.
You can't make out a word of this gibberish.
Liebling, bitte. Er ist unser einziges Kind. Er kann doch auch nächstes Jahr zur Akademie gehen.
Keep trying, officer. We'll get a signal through eventually. Again?
It's gone now.
A slight frisson at the point where your neck meets your spine. Something about the lieutenant's words directed at you, but not you.
I didn't say anything, Detective.
Someone has been maintaining it. The wiring has been repaired.
An uncomfortable silence falls over the connection.
It's been a long winter. Long and cold.
I promise you I didn't, even though it certainly sounds like me.
Yes, a particularly eerie specimen, but still just a harmless piece of the past returning to surface.
Right. I just wish I could remember what I was talking about.
Natürlich halten ihn die Psychologen für vollkommen normal.
What else is there to do? Keep trying.
But someone has been maintaining it. The wiring has been repaired.
Dubois, please acknowledge. Liebling, bitte. Ist unser einziges Kind. Where's she parted? Please identify.
The signals are getting increasingly mixed. Plucking Archer's signal from this will be like isolating a single strand from a tangle of hair.
It's not working. The crosstalk is simply too strong. I did not expect simply locating the signal to be so difficult. We must consider several variables. Local entroponetic conditions, the sophistication of our transceiver, the quality of our connections, and the physics of our antenna itself. Our transceiver is perfectly capable, so there is no problem there. And we're also unlikely to change our local entroponetic conditions. So, the next step is to thoroughly inspect our connections. You need to climb up there and look at them for yourself.
But you don't have the technical expertise.
Someone has been maintaining it.
Something about this setup seems dimly familiar, but you'll be damned if you know what you're supposed to do about it. Images of your body smashed against the pavement flood your mind. This is dangerous.
That's true, but I can't leave my station, so it will have to be you. Then you might break your neck.
Your gloves give you a solid grip on the metal bar. This feels pleasingly familiar. You don't exactly cut a lithesome figure, but after several moments of scrambling, you manage to hoist yourself atop the monument. That performance was frankly an embarrassment. The connection itself is nothing more than a little braid of exposed wire wrapped about the hoof of the horse. A copper fetter it cannot slip. The whole monument is covered in a thin but durable layer of oil and grime. It's obvious no one has cleaned it in years. The programmer mentioned ammonia, but anything alcoholic should dissolve the oils, creating a cleaner and clearer connection. It takes a few moments, but the alcohol gradually begins to break down the oils surrounding the copper wiring.
Is this really the time, Detective?
It's all right, Lieutenant. He's simply cleaning the connections.
Once the oils have been dissolved, you wipe off the connections with your sleeve and reattach the cable.
It seems to have made some difference, but unfortunately not enough to alter the overall situation. Unser einziges Kind. Er kann doch auch nächstes Jahr zur Akademie gehen. Short of changing the shape of the antenna, I'm not sure what else we can do from here. And the lorries are all jammed together, so that's unlikely to happen. Ideally, narrow the receiving mode so that we can isolate the warship signal and eliminate the crosstalk. And if you don't know what you're doing, of course you could just make it worse. What do you mean? You adjust the antenna manually, with your hands. I'm afraid we're out of alternatives.
She's right. The responsibility is yours, and yours alone. There's no turning back now. You are face to face with Philip III. The Bronze King looks toward the west. Something about his features seems bizarrely distorted. Not intentionally. It's a matter of perspective. The king was never meant to be seen from such an angle as you've attained. This faithful steed is in nearly as poor a condition as its rider. A clear night sky. The stars make for a brilliant display. Across the river, you can see the lights of Coalition warship Archer floating above Revachol East. A few of the idle lorry drivers and strikebreakers gesture at you with their cigarettes, more out of curiosity than anything else. From the window of one of the adjacent apartment buildings, an older woman leans out, her heavy breasts sagging. She yells a single word you can't make out, and then shuts the window with a violent thunk. You allow the broken hunk of metal to clatter to the ground. It wasn't clear to you it did anything anyway.
Nein, Liebling! What are you doing? The connection is even worse now. This is extremely unprofessional. But it is, because you broke it.
She's right. This was your responsibility.
Damn it! I'm going to push the power supply. I doubt it will last more than a few minutes, so you'd better make them count.
A maelstrom of sound, swirling and swirling around an invisible point.
Nicht mehr derselbe ist, seit er auf einem Luftschiff aus Grab zurückgekommen ist.
Lieutenant Dubois, please respond.
It's too much. Your eardrums are throbbing, about to burst.
A long winter, long and cold.
And then, nothing.
Try it now.
This is Warship Archer. We are acknowledging and accepting you. Though we're still getting quite a bit of interference.
This is the best we can do. I suggest you get to your business quickly. I doubt I'll be able to maintain even this connection very long.
There is so much you wish you could ask, but you probably only have time for 1 or 2 questions before the signal is lost.
Please be advised that you are speaking on a public frequency. What is your request? Acknowledged. To reach the committee, all you need to do is fill out the appropriate request form and submit it to the Liaison for Public Affairs. If the liaison accepts your request, you will be invited to address the committee at their next quarterly public hearing. We believe the next hearing is scheduled for July.
She's got to be jerking your chain, right? You can't wait that long.
Not a problem. If this is a time-sensitive matter, you may file an emergency address request with the Liaison for Public Affairs. They typically respond within a few weeks. We're afraid that is quite impossible, Lieutenant Dubois. We cannot transfer you to the committee because we are not entrusted with that responsibility. We are simply the second signaler. We're here, Lieutenant. Though we have to say, this is all quite out of sequence.
This line of argument is quite pointless. You should abandon it.
What part of need to reach the committee doesn't she understand? Time to lay it all out.
We will hear your request, Lieutenant Dubois. Although...
That's only because they haven't heard about your problems yet.
So, you're experiencing acute memory loss.
Ah, good God, here we go.
We're afraid we don't understand at all. What does this something have to do with your lost memory? Unfortunately, we cannot accept your request. Now, please excuse us while we update the receiving frequency. This connection will be cleared in 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the lieutenant gives a long sigh as he removes his head.
I think it's best for you to climb off the statue now, Detective. Your real work is done here.
The cold bronze tickles your inner thighs. Your legs have grown stiff. You've been up here quite a while. You look around. Most everyone has already gone home for the night. It's really just you, the lieutenant, and the programmer left. There's really no point. You're beginning to feel like the little child who refuses to come down off the carousel.
Good. Now give me a hand with these amplifiers.
What's one more trip across the waterlock?
not think we were all that successful. That maybe the RCM has a different definition of success. In any event, just leave that equipment here. I'll put it away later. If you'd like, you could take one of the extra headsets. I don't need so many spares. Now, you'll excuse me. I have to get back to my own work. Yes, what is it?
There's some tear, an empty cigarette package, and you see it's hard to The light vanishes inside the concrete slit. The structure goes deep under the earth. There's no echo and no answer. Maybe it's just a storm drain for the sewer.
No idea. Could be connected to one of the buildings around here. We might find her down somewhere. There's an old storm drain system beneath Martinez that's mostly collapsed. Revachol's sewage system has been built and rebuilt 4 or 5 times now. In conclusion, she could be under any building. I hope not.
There's no echo. Dome-shaped plastic buoy bobs up and down in the water. You lift the buoy out of the water without much. The number...
Simple construction.
There's something in there. A shot glass.
Well, damn.
There's no way the perp is in here, officer. Look how scarred the boards are. All attempts to pry them off have failed. Not this time. The opposition is insurmountable, but I like the spirit. And dangerous. Dangerous too.
The suspect? God, I hope not. I can't see a way in, though many have tried.
Aye, the sea's gonna calm down soon, I can feel it. The wind is turning southeast. What's on your mind? Oh? Who? Okay. When did this person stay here? Oh. I've been out on the sea for most of the past week. The weather's been good for fishing, so I usually start at 4 in the morning. Yes, that's the optimal time. Got to make the most of the calm. I've been sleeping like a corpse after. The sea really takes its toll. Now I'm just waiting for the wind to settle to get out there again. Sorry I couldn't help you out. Maybe I can help you find someone else. Really? Are you sure you're not also looking for Nadia Harnancourt? Or Ignis Nielsen? Or the great lost city of Ace under the waves? A lot of stuff. Oh, there's plenty missing. But that's too much for even an eager terrier like you to handle. Although you seem very thorough. Tell me, instead, is there something else I can help you with?
It's getting late, and it's snowing. Time to call it a day.
Good night, officer. We'll meet in front of the shack in the morning.
Aye, the sea's gonna calm down soon, I can feel it. The wind is turning southeast.
It's getting late, and it's snowing. Time. On the table, you see a bowl of water, a rough soap, and next to it, a small hand mirror. A straight razor. The water reflects back a vague image of your face. Nose bulbous and red. Hair unkempt. Wrinkles lining the eyes and forehead. The stash is gigantic. A fresh start looms ahead. Clean yourself up and be born anew. An old mirror hangs on the wall. You see the reflection of your face in it, adorned with the expression. The bed is comforting, if a bit run down. Still, The place feels almost like home now, quiet and dignified around you. A new life by the seaside. You're incredibly tired. The darkness and warmth come fast. You're falling asleep.
It's easier this time. Drifting off, your head has found a comfortable indent in the pillow. Your legs and your torso feel like lead weights sinking to the bottom of the sea.
This respite, you've earned it, brother. Bask in the darkness. Let it swallow you up and swivel you around. While now you haven't, you've just been. No, this is the one before that. We'll just keep cycling it for you if you don't mind. As long as we can. Spin it like black yarn.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
You're welcome, Harry boy. You earned it.
After centuries of darkness, the alarm rings. But what's this? You actually feel rested. There's no time to cuddle with your pillow, however, or as much as shiver from the cold. The world awaits.
Go. An old mirror hangs on the wall. You see the reflection of your face in it, adorned with the expression.
Yes?
Our tenant, the policeman. Nay, I haven't seen anyone lately. This is my little cinder block town. I know what goes on around here.
She's being evasive. She knows something.
There was a murder in Martinez. She might be a suspect. We would appreciate your help.
Would you now? I know how this world works, and it doesn't work when people tell on each other. No, it's not like that, man. With him, we called you. Right now, you just arrived by yourself, like a raven plucking at the window. There's not much to tell. People come and go. Now, was there something else?
I see, ma'am. I hope you don't mind if we look around anyway.
You should look around your shack. Maybe she's rented it out to others too. As you look at the floorboards in this corner of the shack, it's clear one of them isn't quite level, with the edge of a floorboard next to it looks scratched. Hollow space underneath the floorboards is dark and damp. You can barely make out the mixture of sand and sawdust below. Nothing particular catches your eye. Looks like more reeds. Then something bad. Someone's night thoughts. A last resort. You stick your hand in and start combing through the sand. Dry, not like outside. Fine dust. And then something hard wrapped in paper. A small cylindrical object. You pull it out. A bullet. A 9mm bullet, to be exact, fit for all muzzle loaders of that caliber. Like your own village. The floorboard isn't interested. Maybe the washerwoman is. You have enough to confront her with. Holding the bullet, you get the feeling this isn't ammunition against you. It's for herself.
Our tenant, the policeman. I hope the waves don't keep you up at night. What? Damn that girl.
And without anger, a long and harsh life has taught her not to buckle under pressure.
But you didn't put it there, did you? She did.
Gone and hid things in there? She's usually a good tenant, and not a stupid one either. Yes, I let my room to that Ruby girl. As I've done before when she's been in trouble or just looking for solitude. I've made it clear, we welcome all kinds of people here. She came last Friday, left on Monday in a hurry. What has she gotten herself into, that girl?
She seems genuinely worried about her previous tenant. She's seen her hiding out from trouble before.
That's for the police to find out. Right then, please answer each question to the best of your ability. I'm sure we have a few.
Yes, early with the dogs, around 8 o'clock, I think.
She probably heard the lieutenant's Kanema drive by, and it woke her up, just like it did you.
Yes. That is a downside of having a 130 kilowatt engine. It lets the bad guys know when you are coming.
I cleaned it, like I always do. No.
The truth, sire.
She's good company. Knows how to talk to an old woman. At my age, you don't get a lot of quality conversation. So I really appreciate that about her.
Did she talk to you much during her last stay?
No, she was mostly silent this time. She tried not to let it show, but I could tell she hadn't come to fish. Usually she likes to cast a few lines, but this time she mostly stayed in her room. How would I know? She's a gruff one, but not violent. She doesn't go around toting a gun.
You could ask her about your hunch, that it was a desperate measure. See if she thinks Ruby fits the bill.
Aye, do tell. Exit from what?
The lieutenant stops writing for a moment. He looks at you, then at the old woman.
No, she's a fighter.
She really believes that.
Not that I know of, though she was into nice music. She once showed me a few mixtape milieu she'd made. Although I guess she was pretty handy with the mechanical and technical stuff. Even fixed the heater in the shack. You should be thankful for that. I don't know. Further up the coast, she tried to leave quietly, but the hinges on that door screeched like a cat in heat. Woke me up. I heard her rushing in those heavy boots, heading up north.
It's a peninsula. She might be trapped.
You'll never find her, you know. She knows the coast like the back of her hand. You only just arrived.
I wouldn't worry about that, ma'am. We are persistent.
Are you sure you would rather stay here? Get a nice cozy fire going in the heater? Seems like a better idea to me.
The failed electric mural. You feel like you should go look at it again. Step closer this time.
What more do you want to know? Yes, let's hear one thing.
She really means it. It's an honest plea.
She's a good girl. Whatever she's gotten herself mixed up in.
Snow covers the white on blue police livery of the motor carriage. The white colors nearly meld together. Do something important? Something murder-related? There's always something important. Doesn't mean you can't take a moment to admire this piece of machinery. This is a Caprice Kanema, the Caprice Motor Corps follow-up to their highly successful workhorse, Caprice 40, and the answer to the Lum's racing breed, Ferv series. With its air-cooled, rear-mounted 12-cylinder compression ignition engine, driving the rear wheels through a 4-speed manual gearbox, the Kanema is able to reach 100 kilometers per hour in 13.5 seconds and go on to a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour. The high center of balance is offset by a large battery bank mounted at the bottom of the cabin, feeding all the auxiliary systems and making the Kanema effectively a mobile power plant. Due to a quite steep price tag, it is very unusual to see one in police livery.
You want to take a closer look? 130.
I reckon that's a 7-liter V12 there.
.2, supercharged.
Saying these words brings him immense joy.
Yes, an extraordinary machine.
It's nice and all, but why so modest? Put some zing into it. Flare it up. Slam it down. Helium headlights would improve the range and quality of the visual field a lot.
Actually, I have a pair at home. Just haven't gotten around to fitting them yet. I need to lay some wiring for the ballast first. Maybe. Yes, definitely maybe.
And means no.
Hello again, esteemed officer, and welcome to Crime, Romance. Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. Some of these old paperbacks just don't have the durability. I would be happy to sell you another one, but unfortunately, it's the last copy we had in stock. What do you mean, actual source? I thought this issue was resolved. What?
Ma'am, What he's saying is true. We found an anthroponetic anomaly in the small Pinewood church down the coast. I don't mean to be an alarmist, and more research is needed, but it's not looking good.
But that's not in any of the ancient texts. How am I supposed to protect my bookstore from that? Close the shop? But it's all I have. No, there must be a way, especially now that Annette is settling in at school again. She's finally making friends in this place. No, we can't leave Martinez, we can't. Thank you for your help in any case. You're welcome back here anytime.
The bear's eyes are still glowing red.
Oh, it's you again. Are you looking for a dye? You mean the curse that I'm spared of because I live outside its immediate reach? I'm listening. Excuse me? A 2mm hole in reality? This can't be true.
I'm afraid it is, ma'am. Sona Lukanen killed the former lead programmer of Fortress Accident, made the discovery.
Sona is involved in this? So it's even worse than I thought. It's not just the commercial area that's cursed, it's the entire world.
She looks outside the window where daylight has filled the yard.
I guess the least I can do is check up on Sona, see how she's doing. In any case, thank you for stopping by. It's good to have an answer, even if I can't claim to understand it fully.
Before I squeal, pig.
Fuck, does Kuno care? Kuno gets it from his dad.
Kuno and his dad are major suppliers. Problem is, Kuno and his dad had a little falling out. Now junkies clawing at Kuno's door. Dirty Popo man is you. In there is Kuno's violent dad on steroids. Kuno's dad does steroids and speed. If you can take him, you can have half of the speed. Kuno's dad is a fucking monster. He's the most violent man in Revachol. He doesn't give a shit about a single thing. He drinks too. Like half. A baggie, but like in this vial.
That's half a gram, sir.
Yeah, half a G. Want it or not? Fuck you talking about half a G? This shit is giant, grade A shit. So clean you can barely see it.
You can barely see it because there's barely any.
Okay, Kuno's listening. Sure, confiscate it for Kuno, and you can have half. Just get in the apartment building. Kuno knows you already fucked your way in. Kuno knows everything. Go to room 12, first floor, and kick down the door. Police violence style. Kuno style. And then it's action time. You're locked in the room with violent fuckheads. That's it. Next time Kuno sees you, you better have his shit.
What the hell are you signing us up for here? Okay then.
Kuno doesn't...
This coin-operated viewer is facing southwest. Its coin slot is full of fossilized bubblegum. A thick layer of graffito covers the lenses. You spell out the word Onuk written on the other side, with N and C scribbled backwards. That's Kuno on the lens. Under the graffito, a sea of blues and greys appear. Behind the water lies a coast studded with concrete and reeds. On it, a church on stilts. Lanky weather-worn. You know this to be the star of Periconesus, or the Cairo, the central symbol of the Periconesian church. The church looks old and weather-worn. Around the large wooden building you see chunks of sea ice gathered on the beach, and a small tent set up on the ice. This coin-operated viewer is facing south. The instruction manual says to insert 25 centimes. Why place a tourist attraction in the middle of such poverty?
There was a revitalization project in '49. A design studio tried restoring Martinez to its pre-war glory. It didn't stick. They got as far as the street lamps and that statue on the intersection before something went sour. I suspect it was Evrard Skler's doing. He muscled them out. It's how it usually goes around here.
The lieutenant adjusts his collar. Your money disappears into the coin slot. A clunk. The ring. The curtains on the display open. You lean in to catch the view. It's blurry. Different blues and greens. In the middle of the shimmer stands a drab grey shape, like a ghost. The lenses shift. The ghost sharpens into an islet in the bay. In the ruins, a man-made structure is visible. A half-sunken sea fort, its concrete almost reconquered by nature. It looks as if it was abandoned quite some time ago. Nothing but a rotten tooth remains of the anti-aircraft tower. A lonely birch tree grows out of it, its leaves ripped from it by the winter wind.
Really? I don't have the eyesight to make it out.
The little brave birch tree seems to wave back in the wind.
Can you tell? From this distance? I don't think it's possible.
It's not. The details are blurry. There's water vapor in the way and waves cut into the islet. Arno van Eyck. Okay, so Egghead is clearly not Van Eyck in disguise. Van Eyck is an Oranese disco jockey, but those people get around, especially in Revachol, in the clubs on Boogie Street. Perhaps he stayed here for a short stint and discarded part of the song he was working on, just threw it away. And then it ended up in the hawthorn tree. But why? Did he think it was retrograde? It wasn't. Perhaps he caught a glimpse of the future and did not want for it to arrive just yet. Perhaps the city whispered the top line to him, and he was frightened by it. You hear a poor community.
Do I have to? Do you have a...
Let's go.
It's general. A shabby door hangs oddly on its hinges, secured to the doorframe with a safety chain. An unpaid energy bill is attached, threatening to cut off the electricity. It's addressed to Mr. Uno de Reuter.
And the place comes with 3 months' worth of utility bills.
No response. The apartment numbers have fallen off the door, leaving the panel with a stick. You'll need to equip the chain cutters to enter. Snip right. A shabby door hangs oddly on its hinges, secured to the doorframe with A shabby door hangs oddly on its hinge. It should be easy, but it's... Fabric rustles. The lieutenant's chin catches against his collar.
Trouble with the chain, officer? Supreme titanium? Sure. The door inside this...
You can't stand for that. Come on, show him what you can really do. How? How can this be? How can such a simple chain defy our best efforts? Are you... A shabby door hangs oddly on its hinges. Snip. The cutter goes through them like dead leaves. The links fall to the ground on the other side of the... Don't let the quiet fool you. The beast is in there somewhere, ready to rip you to shreds with a broken bottle.
I know there's no stopping you, but let's at least make this quick.
A phone book lies open on the table, covering a stack of utility bills. Right next to it, in plain sight, sits a small bottle of amphetamine, conveniently equipped with a straw.
Good.
The minuscule amount of amphetamine doesn't interest the lieutenant in the slightest. He listens instead to something in the other room. You pocket the bottle as if it were blasted before you face the beast. Deruita. You're going to need the encouragement.